Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today, of course, is Monday, March the 30th, 2026. Hopefully, everybody's having a good start of the week. Of course, this is the penultimate day of March here, second to the last day of March before. So, in the over the next couple of days, will be by Wednesday, of course, will be a third through. Let's see, actually, about a quarter of the way the year, 3 months in. So hopefully everybody's, as I said, having a good week thus far. And it looks like we do have three people. So I guess I'll talk about what I'll get right into what's going down on tonight's show. Of course, tonight I'll be going over one article from Bleeding Fool. Apparently, stuff's going on at Boom to where their Boom Studios over in London in England, where they're apparently going to have to. I guess they're laying off some people, some restructuring going on over there. That'll be the main article we'll be looking at tonight. And then we also do have quite a bit of wrestling news to go over, as of course WWE and AEW are building towards big events here in April. Here, WWE will in just under 3 weeks away um, from WrestleMania, while AEW just under 2 weeks away from I believe it's Dynasty. Um, so we'll be going back over the weekend looking at all the stuff that went down pro wrestling, looking back to Friday Night SmackDown, looking at a couple of big events that happened, including TNA's Sacrifice pay per view, and some stuff kind of happened there, particularly in the main event. Some of you may have heard about it already, but we'll go over that. Ring of Honor had another Global Wars event, this time with Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling up in Canada. We'll be looking at that and some of the stuff going down there. And of course, Maple Leaf Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling Uprising on Saturday as well. We'll be looking at Collision, and of course, be looking ahead to tonight's Monday Night Raw, and then of course we'll wrap things up with this day in each history. So with all that being said, friendly reminder to everybody before we get going here, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. It goes for both my Rumble and my YouTube viewers. With all that being said, without any further ado, let's get into our material for the evening here. Here's the article we're going to be looking at tonight. All right, there we go. All right, so here we go. Boom Studios faces layoffs and major restructure. Article by John Pallister, published today. All right, so Boom Studios, for those of you who don't know, even though we've talked about it on the show here several times, Boom Studios is a comic book distributor over in England. They distribute the comic book company / distribute over in England. They distribute, they produce and publish a lot of books over there. So let's get into this. So Boom Studios is entering a new phase following a sweeping internal restructuring by its parent company, Random House Worlds. The changes, which include staff layoffs and a broader integration into the larger publishing group, signal a deeper alignment between Boom and the Random House Worlds portfolio. Among those affected by the layoffs are Associate Marketing Manager Anthony Morrow and Executive Editor Kwanzaa Osa Osafjeo. The restructuring also redistributes responsibilities across multiple imprints under the Random House Worlds umbrella, which includes Del Rey, Inklore, licensed publishing lines, and Boom itself. Hey, Natsuri. Hey, Natsuri, I see you there. Thanks for dropping in. I'm sure this is something you might have heard about because I think Boom is over in your neck of the woods. Anyways, as we continue on here, the overhaul was outlined by Keith Clayton, Senior Vice President and Publisher of Random House Worlds. Under the new structure, Boom's publishing, operational, and strategic planning functions will be more closely coordinated with the broader group, reflecting a more centralized approach to management. So, what it sounds like they're doing, it sounds like they're basically consolidating their operations. They're, they're just cutting out a lot of the fat and just really just shrinking stuff and just consolidating it to try to make it more efficient. I would imagine that's their thought process. But if anybody has any other theories they want to throw out there, feel free to to share. Despite the integration, Boom Studios is expected to maintain its identity as a distinct imprint. Key editorial leadership remains in place, including editor-in-chief Andy Schmidt and editors such as Taya Fogner and Sebastian Gerner. The company continues to move forward with high-profile projects, including its recently announced Power Rangers reboot. The restructuring also expands Boom's influence within the parent organization. Its experience in crowdfunding and direct-to-consumer initiatives will now be leveraged across other imprints, with those efforts becoming a larger part of the division's overall strategy. So it looks like one of the things they're doing here is a lot of the crowdfunding and direct-to-consumer stuff that Boom itself was doing just for it. They're not going to, utilize this consolidation here to expand that into some of the other departments. So that sounds pretty pretty interesting. Hmm. Several leadership and reporting changes accompany the shift. Michael Kelly will continue to oversee Boom as vice president and publisher while joining the Random House World leadership team. All right, so basically, it just simply means that instead of just being kind of off on his own now he'll be part of the part of the bigger group of leaders. Let's see, Julie Luong, vice president and deputy publisher of Random House World, will take on oversight of Boom's publishing and operational alignment across the group. Bryce Carlson will lead expanded business development efforts across all imprints, focusing on partnerships, licensing, and direct-to-consumer growth. Josh Haynes will oversee sales for multiple imprints, including Boom and Inklore, um, while also managing distribution strategies, marketing, and community engagement teams from Boom will be integrated into the broader Random House World's marketing structure. Additional promotions and role shifts across publishing operations, rights management, and marketing reflect an effort to streamline workflows and unify strategy across the division. Basically, the idea is key point here is it looks like as I said earlier, my comment earlier, they're consolidating everything to try to make it more efficient, right? That's basically based on how I'm reading this here. That's what they're basically doing. Let's see. Getting back to the article, of course. The move is not entirely unexpected since Boom Studios was acquired by Penguin Random House, part of the global media giant uh, Bertelsmann. Industry observers anticipated closer integration over time. The latest restructuring appears to be a significant step in that direction. More developments are expected as the new structure takes shape. Well, obviously stuff's gonna get moved around, all that. Alrighty then. So let's see. Well, I mean, we went about. It looked like we might have time. Let me go see if I can find another article for us to go over. If not here, then at least on at least one other site, maybe that Park Place. So um, at least first. All right, bam. Let's see. Now I'm trying to think here. Oh yeah. Hmm. All right. So, and I already knew that there wasn't much. All right. So, let me see. I'm just trying to think here. Maybe I can go check one last time at. All right. Well, no, Mike. No. Remember where you're at, Mike. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Actually, that was we already did. All right, yeah. So one more time here at the Park Place. Let me. All right, yeah. Look, I can't find much else. So let's see. What then shall I do? Let's see now. Well, I guess we'll get into the wrestling wrap up then. Granted, it'll be like super early. Probably one of the earliest times we got in the wrestling wrap, but I do have a feeling we'll have so much to talk about that we will probably take a good chunk of time. As I said, there were a couple, there was a pay-per-view event that happened this over the weekend. There was a couple of events up in Canada that had some major stuff going on, and also, of course, WWE and AEW also building up towards their next big events. For WWE, WrestleMania, and for AEW, it's Dynasty. So, not any further ado, I guess we'll get going and start talking about what all went down over the weekend here in terms of the world of professional wrestling. So I'm going to head over to Friday night. So the first thing I will actually start off by doing here, I guess I will go over the I'll just go as I normally do, go based on all right, so going back to Friday Night SmackDown, we'll start off there, of course. On this past Friday Night SmackDown, as they continue on a show that did not receive too high a rating on Cage Match, as they, of course, were continuing to build towards WrestleMania. Friday Night SmackDown happened at the PBG Paints Arena in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with Wade Barrett and Joe Tessitore on commentary. I do need to go off camera here for a quick moment. I'll be right back. Let me just put the music on for you guys. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So let's get ready to talk about it. So as I said, Friday Night SmackDown came in the PBG arena, Paints Arena in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with Wade Barrett and Joe Tessitore on commentary. The show opened up with a tag team match between the Bella Twins and Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair, or some people calling them Charlexa, as the build towards a possible multi-person or multi-team rather women's tag team title match is being built up here, as the Bella Twins did get the win with I believe Brie getting the pin on Alexis. Now post match, you had the current tag team champions of the Irresistible Forces of Nia Jax and Lash Legend come out and start attacking both teams. In a situation where it's possible they believe that Nikki might have hurt her knee during the occasion, so we'll just be waiting to hear from updates on that. And then another team potentially involved in that potential multi-team match will Bailey and Lyra Valkyria came out to help fend off Irresistible Forces. So, and also during the early stages of the show, it was Nick Aldis came out and announced an unsanctioned, due to a lot of the physicality and the brutality that's been going on between these two men, between Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre. It has now been announced for WrestleMania, an unsanctioned match between the two. Now, unsanctioned basically means that the ref is only going to be there to count pinfalls or check for submissions. Unsanctioned is basically no holds barred, anything goes type of match. No countouts, no DQs. The ref's only there to count the pinfall or ask for the submission. That's it between the two. So then the next match on the evening saw in a singles match Rhea Ripley defeating B-Fab by DQ when Jade Cargill and Michin came in and jumped her, leading to a 3-on-1 attack on her by Jade Cargill and her new best friends there, B-Fab and Michin. You know, the only thing now they need somebody like a Paul Heyman or something to kind of start speaking for them, and then you've got the baddies from basically that's what this feels like, the baddies from, which was the baddies were basically a little heel group that Jade Cargill brought together in AEW. There it was her, Layla Gray, and Kiera Hogan. Actually, no, I think it was her, Kiera Hogan, and Red Velvet, who were the Layla Gray kind of came later. But it just kind of feels like the baddies. So, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jade decided to call them that. Either the baddies or if the baddies just happen to be copyrighted by AEW. Maybe they'll call them like the Bad Girls or something, or the Mean Girls or something like that. Anyways, continuing on here, the next match in his singles debut, and it's only his second match in one of the other things that really got a lot of fans upset. Jelly Roll being the main focus of the show throughout. his first singles match happened. He was in a number of segments backstage, including the main event segment. A lot of which, there's some talk that Jelly Roll will be teaming up with a partner to take on Kit Wilson and The Miz. The match itself was okay, but I think people just didn't like the fact that Jelly Roll, as a celebrity guest, is getting this much of a push. Even though a lot of people are saying that compared to his first match, he has shown great improvement. He's shown that he's put in the work. So I think some fans are feeling like, now granted, WrestleMania historically has been it's been their biggest event of all time. So of course the celebrities are going to play a major role in it, to help promote it, obviously. But some people are saying, are they trying to turn WrestleMania into Celebrimania? They're becoming more about the celebrity guests than about the. You have Jelly Roll going to be involved this year. You have the internet. Now the funny thing is, I thought it was actually Javon Evans that they had this segment with, but a friend of mine actually corrected me, and they even said it on the WrestleMania report that actually it was YouTuber, I guess Ice Cream or something like that, or I don't know the guy's name, but another guy very similar to BDE, Brennan Does Everything. He's a big wrestling fan, and it's just, again, though, I think people are just not happy with Jelly Roll being pushed so hard for this event. Then you had probably what was considered the best match of the night, albeit a lot of people were not too fond of the result, but it was still a great match. Sami Zayn defeated Carmelo Hayes for the United States title. There is some, there's some talk that Sami Zayn currently also in a feud with Trick Williams, which they're setting up a match at WrestleMania, possibly even for the title, or maybe even a three-way for the title. But a lot of people are just not happy with the fact that, especially with the way the whole Carmelo Hayes was working the open challenge gimmick of the United States title, they just felt like his reign was just too short. They should have kept the belt on him, but you basically have now I think Sami Zayn is set to take on Trick Williams at WrestleMania. I don't know if the match is for the title, and I don't think it was an issue. Obviously, the match was signed before it, so they had to make some. In a non-title match, Women's United States Champion Julia defeated Tiffany Stratton with some timely interference from Kiana James in the corner. And then in the main event, saw Randy Orton defeat Matt Cardona. And then it saw after the match, Matt Cardona was getting beat down by Orton. Jelly Roll decided to come out, and I think he got beat down by Orton as well. Again, being pushed in a way that I think a lot of fans are just not happy with. So that's all that happened on Friday Night SmackDown. So now we're going to look at some other stuff. We're going to talk about some other stuff that happened on Friday night. I'm going to, let's see. Yeah, let me talk about what happened on TNA, because something major did go down on Impact. Or not on Impact, but on at Sacrifice. Okay, so now before Sacrifice, of course, on YouTube, there was the countdown to Sacrifice 2026. The countdown to Sacrifice 2026 and Sacrifice 2026 were coming from the Hilario Center in Oswego, Louisiana, with, of course, Tom Hannafan and Matthew Rainwell on commentary. The countdown show had a couple of matches. first off seeing Ryan Nemeth defeating Brandon Does Everything, BDE, in just under 6.5 minutes. And then in a singles match, continuing their feud, Tessa Blanchard with her Diamond Collective teammates of Victoria Crawford and Mila Moore in her corner defeated Jody Threat, who had Mila Grace and Harley Hudson in her corner. So on the countdown show, you had Ryan Nemeth defeat Brandon Does Everything, and then Tessa Blanchard defeat Jody Threat on the countdown show. Now on to the main show, on to Sacrifice. Also coming from the Hilaria Center, West Wago, with, of course, Tom Hannafan and Matthew Rainwalt on commentary. The show opened up with a match for the X Division title with Eric Young cashing in his briefcase for a title shot here. Coming up short in 15 minutes, 16 seconds as Leon Slater retained the X Division title over Eric Young. In a tag team match, Frankie Azarian and AJ Francis defeated Elijah and the Hometown Man in 11-18. In the Knockouts World 3-Way match, Ariana Grace retained over Danny Luna and Lei Ying Lee with Lee, of course, getting the I think with Grace getting the pin on Luna after Lei Ying Lee had been pulled out of the ring, when she was trying to get a pin by Channing Lorenzo. In mixed tag action, the Order for duo of Mustafa Ali and Tasha Steelz, with the Good Hands in their corner, defeated international champion Trey Miguel and Jada Stone. And what promises a continuation of this feud in 15 minutes, 15 seconds. Then you had Moose defeat Eddie Edwards in a singles match in 30 seconds as members of the system came down and interfered in the match. Rich Edwards was, of course, in Moose's corner. He's had a lot of interference involved there. And in a no DQ match, Mara Sade defeated Elena Black in 9.5 minutes. In tag team action, the system's Cedric Alexander and Brian Myers defeated Jeff Hardy and Vincent. Initially, this was supposed to be a TNA World Tag Team title between Alexander and Myers and the Hardys, until it was revealed that before the show, Matt Hardy had been mysteriously attacked. Vincent stepped in for Hardy during the match, and then it was later revealed that it was actually the Righteous all along who attacked Matt Hardy, as that feud looks to continue. With, of course, Vincent turning his back on Jeff, and Jeff getting, suffering the pinfall to the system. And then in the main event, Mike Santana would successfully retain the TNA World title over Steve Macklin by referee's decision, 2 minutes 18, as just a major accident happened when there was some concern for concussion after Mike Santana hit Steve Macklin pretty flush on the jaw with a super kick, knocking him a little loopy, to the point where referee Alice Lane had to throw up the X sign to get some medical help for Steve Macklin. And Eddie Edwards came out to go after Santana, to try to help kill some time while they were tending to people thought that maybe Eddie Edwards would try to cash it because he has the briefcase for the world title. But with all that being said, as I said, now Macklin was taken to the hospital and he was examined and he's okay. No concussion, no signs of concussion, but they're just doing some concussion precautions there. He got kind of he just got hit right under the chin there with that super kick, and he was pretty much knocked loopy. So now, after that, of course, after TN, also another big event happened. This one, a co-promoted event between Ring of Honor and Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling up in Canada. Airing on Thriller TV, coming from St. Clair College Sportsplex in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, with Don Callis, Ian Riccaboni, and Mauro Ranallo on commentary. Ring of Honor and Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling held Global Wars Canada. On the pre-show, Maya World defeated Billy Starks in a battle of two AEW signed talent. You'll see, as I said, this is a co-promoted event between Ring of Honor and Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. So you have a lot of AEW talent who work Ring of Honor. The opening match on a tag team match, Eddie Kingston and Ortiz defeat Tommy Billington, the modern day Dynamite Kid, the nephew of the original, and Adam Priest in just over 9.5 seconds. In a match for the Ring of Honor Women's World Television title, Red Velvet successfully retained over Alice Crowley. In 6-man tag action, the lethal twist of Jay Lethal and the twist of Blake Christian and Lee Johnson defeated the team of Bhupinder Gujjar, Evil Uno, and Psycho Mike. In a match for the Ring of Honor Women's Pure title, Deonna Purrazzo successfully retained against former TNA rival when they were in TNA together, Giselle Shaw, who is also the current Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling's Canadian Women's Champion. More on that in a moment here, of course. Then in a match for the PWA Champions Grail title, Rohan Raja retained over former AEW talent Stu Grayson. In a 6-way scramble, Michael Oakley defeated AEW's Ace Austin and also Brent Banks, Daisuke Sasaki, Jake Christ, Michael Allen, and Richard Clark. In a match for the Ring of Honor Women's World title, Athena successfully retained over Taylor Rising. Former AEW National Champion Ricochet defeated TNA's Rich Swann. And the main event to crown the first ever Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling Canadian Tag Team Champions, the Good Brothers of Ken Anderson and Doc Gallows successfully defeated Bishop Dyer and Kaito Kiyomiya. AEW's Gates of Agony of Bishop Khan and Toa Leona, and Bryce Hansen and Sheldon Jean in 14 minutes 54 seconds. Now, of course, moving on to Saturday here, we will move ahead to the Saturday. As happening, of course, on Saturday, among other things, Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling had their Uprising event. Also from the St. Clair College Sportsplex, with, of course, on Thriller TV with Ian Riccaboni, Don Callis, and Jimmy Jacobs on commentary there. The show opened up with a tag match in which Bhupinder Gujjar and CMLL and AEW's Máscara Dorada defeated the team of Jake Christ and Michael Allen Richard Clark in 11:03. In mixed tag action, Evil Uno of Dark Circle and Alice Crowley defeated a team of Chris Chambers and Taylor Rising. The Swirl, Blake Christian and Lee Johnson from AEW, defeated a team of El Reverso and Mo Jabari, a couple of local talents up there. In a singles match between two guys who were partners the night before, Kaito Kiyomiya defeated Bishop Dyer in 13 minutes. In a no disqualification match, Daisuke Sasaki defeated Bryce Hansen. In a match for the Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling Canadian Tag Team, in one of the shortest title reigns that could ever be, the Good Brothers dropped the Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling Canadian Tag Team Championships to Brent Banks and Sheldon Jean. So Brent Banks and Sheldon Jean became the new Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling Tag Team Champions. In somewhat of a rematch from the night before, this time with Giselle Shaw on the defense here. Giselle Shaw defended and successfully retained the Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling Women's Canadian title against Deonna Purrazzo in 17 minutes 28 seconds. And the main event saw the crowning of an interim Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling Canadian champion. Now, the reason for this match came about was on a recent edition of Dynamite, Josh Alexander got injured. Of course, Josh Alexander is the current Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling Canadian Heavyweight Champion and has AEW started this practice, which I, as a wrestling traditionalist and purist, am not really that thrilled with. I think there are a lot of purists and traditionalists who would be in agreement with me on this. But yeah, the whole concept of an interim champion is stupid. Guys in the old days, you know what they did? They'd wrestle, if it was a minor injury, something that couldn't come back from, they might take a couple of nights off and still wrestle through the injury. Okay? Or if they thought they were going to be gone too long, they'd just strip the title of them. But anyway, so this was a gauntlet match in which you had among those challenging to become that interim Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling Canadian Champion, Stu Grayson, Jay Lethal, Jonathan Gresham, Michael Oakley, Rich Swann, Rohan Raja, who had, of course, Aurora Tevis in his corner. Well, Stu Grayson was the last man surviving in the gauntlet match to become the interim Maple Leaf Canadian Heavyweight Champion. Now, what this means now is while Josh Alexander is recuperating, Stu Grayson will represent the company as the champion, will represent Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling as the champion. All right. When Josh Alexander finally becomes medically cleared, he and Grayson will have a match to unify the two titles and see who will be champion moving forward. So from there. So that's how that whole thing works out. And I know some people might argue, well, yeah, but by doing this, you avoid the whole, okay, well, he didn't really lose the title or anything like that because he had to give it up because he was injured and all that. Well, yeah, so what? And you can lay claim to being a top contender right away in that situation. But, But anyways, so that happened at well, there was one other major thing that happened on Saturday night. Well, a couple other things. So you did have AAA on Fox happening. AAA on Fox in Latin America. I believe they would have been showing it on YouTube as well. So the two matches that happened in AAA. So Laredo Kid successfully retained the AAA World Cruiserweight on a four-way match against WWE's Dragon Lee, Jack Cartwheel, and T.J. Perkins. And the other match on the show saw El Fiscal defeat Benro Negro Jr. in a singles match. And then now we look at this past Saturday night's AEW Collision coming from the Alliant Energy Powerhouse in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, with Nigel McGuinness and Tony Schiavone on commentary. The opening match saw the AEW Women's Tag Team titles on the line as the Babes of Wrath, with their contractual rematch of, of course, Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale. Decided to challenge the Divine Dominion of Megan Bayne and Lena Cross for Divine Dominion to successfully retain the AEW Women's World Tag Team titles on the show. And then in a singles match that went 4 minutes, Myron Reed of the Rascals defeated Johnny TV of the M&M TV collection. Myron Reed, of course, had his Rascals teammates Desmond Xavier and Zachary Wentz in his corner, while Johnny TV had Mason Master of the M&M collection in his corner. In tag team action, Daniel Garcia and John Moxley with Claudio Castagnoli in their corner defeated Private Party in tag team action, 11 minutes 48 seconds with Cassidy and Mark. I believe that was their first tag match back since their return. In six-woman tag team action, Mina Shirakawa teamed with the Brawling Birds of Jamie Hayter and current Rev Pro British Undisputed Women's Champion Alex Windsor defeat the team of Amina Belmont, Haven Harris, and Nixie XS in a minute 24. After the match, Mina and Brawling Birds got on the mic to more or less confront the Triangle of Madness, AEW Women's World Champion Tekla and the Sisters of Sin of Sky Blue and Julia Hart. The confrontation led to a signing on this week's Dynamite, I believe. This week's Dynamite between the two factions, in which Mina Shirakawa teams with the Brawling Birds to take on the Triangle of Madness in six-woman tag team action. Tommaso Ciampa defeated Ace Austin in 13 minutes 12 seconds. Tag team match in a reunion of former Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions Aussie Open, Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher of the Don Callis family defeated the team of the Rascals duo of Desmond Xavier and Zachary Wentz. In the main event, Kazuchika Okada of the Don Callis family successfully retained international title over the Jack Kevin Knight after getting his knees up when Knight was trying his UFO splash from 3/4 across to the ring. So that's all we got for what's past. So now to look ahead to tonight's Raw. Tell you guys what you can look forward to on tonight's Monday Night Raw. Because I find the information, of course. Tonight's Monday Night Raw, which will in which they will be very much likely coming from Madison Square Garden in New York City, the longtime home of the WWE, live on Netflix, as they continue their march, their road to WrestleMania. One of the other things that was recently announced too, it looks like John Cena will be hosting WWE WrestleMania this year. It is coming from Las Vegas. So in a match for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles, the Irresistible Forces, Nia Jax and Lash Legend, will defend the WWE Women's Tag Team titles against Bayley and Lyra Valkyria on tonight's Raw. Also, Penta defends the WWE Intercontinental Championship over Kofi Kingston. In a singles match, Io Sky looks to get some payback on Raquel Rodriguez for some of the recent troubles Raquel's caused during recent weeks. And then in the main event, in a street fight for the WWE World Tag Team Championships, the Usos of Jay and Jimmy Uso defend the WWE World Tag Team titles over the Visions, Logan Paul, and Austin Theory. Now, there was some thought that this match might actually be on the pay-per-view, but I guess not. So that's all that you guys can look forward to on tonight's Monday Night Raw. All right. So with that being said, let's see. So now, that being said, the wrestling wrap-up all done, of course. So now, today is, as I said, Monday, March the 30th, 2026. So let's take a look back at this day in Neach history. So let's see. 51, 06, 66, and 2021. All right. So first off, we're going to head back 75 years ago. And on this date, 75 years ago, back in 1951, the 30th issue of Plastic Man from Quality Comics went on sale on this date back in 1951. Yes, for many of you, you may think that Plastic Man was always DC's character. That's not really the case. They actually acquired him with a number of other different characters from a company called Quality Comics, which we, read and talk about quite a bit here on the channel. But on this date, 75 years ago today, the 30th issue of Plastic Man from Quality Comics went on sale on this date. Back in 1951, of course, you see right there, the man who broke the law of gravity was the lead story on that from Plastic Man. Also, you have Dazzler, Daughter of Darkness, Captain Billions. And you have a Woozy Wink story, The Flea Circus, and then you have the Plastic Man story, Grandma Cookies. So there you go. So now, moving on to the next piece of Neach history. From there, as we move ahead to the year 1966, and on this date in the year 1966, premiering on ABC, Hanna-Barbara's Alice in Wonderland, or What's a Nice Kid Like You Doing in a Place Like This, premiered on ABC on this date back in 1966, 60 years ago today. Alice in Wonderland, or What's a Nice Kid Like You Doing in a Place Like This is a 1966 American animated television special written by Bill Dana, also appears in its cast, and produced by Hanna-Barbara. It was broadcast on ABC Network on March 30th, 1966, in an hour slot, including commercials. The songs were written by composer Charles Strauss and lyricist Lee Adams, who were most famous for Bye Bye Birdie. The songs were orchestrated by Marty Page, um, who also provided music, um, direction, plus. Um, anyways, so Hanna-Barbara's Alice in Wonderland, or What's a Nice Kid Like You Doing in a Place Like This, premiered on ABC back in 1966, 60 years ago today. Let's see. So now, moving on to the next piece in Nietzsche history, as we move ahead to the year 2006. As on this date in the year 2006, Ring of Honor, which is 20 years ago, Ring of Honor held its Dragon's Gate Challenge event from the Michigan State Fairgrounds and Expo Center in Detroit, Michigan. The main event saw Christopher Daniels with Allison Danger in his corner defeat Samoa Joe. Then in the third match of the Challenge Series, the Blood Generation of Shima, Masato Yoshino, and Naruka Doi defeated Generation Next of Austin Aries, Jack Evans, and Roderick Strong. So you had three Challenge Series matches. The first one was Ryo Saito defeating Jimmy Yang in the first match. The second match saw a tag team match of AJ Styles defeating Matt Sydal, or AJ Styles and Matt Sydal defeating the tag team known as Do Fixer, Dragon Kid, and Genki Horiguchi. The third match, as we just said, was Blood Generation defeating Generation Next. Let's see. The Embassy of Alex Shelley and Jimmy Rave with Prince Nana in their corner defeated Brian Danielson, Delirious. BJ Whitmer defeated Jimmy Jacobs. The show opened up with Homicide with Julian Smokes in his corner, defeating Colt Cabana in a Falls Count Anywhere match. And now moving up to 5 years ago, moving up to 2021. 5 years ago, on this date 5 years ago today. The second season of Uma Musume Pretty Derby from Studio Kai. The second season of Studio Kai's Uma Musume Pretty Derby completed its second season on Japanese television. All right, so with all that being said, I thank everybody for being here tonight. We'll be back here with more Nietzsche News tomorrow. And of course, this Sunday I'll be joined by Apex from Apex Comics, as we'll be looking at comics that went on sale in August 1940. So with all that being said, I thank you all for being here tonight. And I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.